This is J. Edgar Hoover, the first director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Hoover is in fact the most well-known director of the FBI throughout the entire history of the organization, and served as a director of the Bureau from 1935 to 1972, almost 30 years in office, and he served in that place until he died on May 2nd. J. Edgar Hoover, throughout his career in the FBI, was known for abuses of power, as well as, in fact, openly blackmailing presidents of the United States. And Hoover, one thing that he is also known for is his surveillance and wiretapping of Dr. Martin Luther King. And in many ways, Hoover did not like MLK and sought to undermine him and viewed him as a communist threat to the country. And he did the same thing with other civil rights leaders. It's no secret that J. Edgar Hoover was not a big fan of the civil rights movement. However, one thing which Hoover did like was President Lyndon B. Johnson. Hoover and LBJ got along really well, and the FBI actually actively supported LBJ during the 1964 presidential election. While they couldn't come out with an official endorsement of him, they did whatever they could to make sure that LBJ easily coasted to victory in 1964. However, Hoover was not a big fan of the Kennedys, and the Kennedys did not like him much either. It's no secret that Kennedy and Hoover had a very fraught relationship. This was likely due to the fact that Hoover knew a lot about Kennedy's relationship with Judith Campbell, and blackmailed Kennedy in every way which he could to make sure that Kennedy was fully aware that he knew about Judith Campbell. In fact, RFK, when he ran for president in 1968, Hoover in fact had circulated to the press and leaked a report that RFK in fact secretly wiretapped Martin Luther King. And the reason why RFK was even wiretapping MLK in the first place was because Hoover threatened him by saying that if RFK didn't let him wiretap MLK, then he would effectively leak to the press about Kennedy's relationship with Judith Campbell, which would effectively destroy the reputation of the Kennedy family. So RFK had to just go along then and let Hoover do his thing. And then, when RFK ran for president in 1968, he actively campaigned against President Lyndon B. Johnson. And it's no stretch to say that when Hoover leaked to the press that RFK supported wiretapping MLK, he may have very well been doing this under the orders of Johnson, who sought to undermine RFK's bid for president. However, this brings an interesting scenario. What if JFK wasn't assassinated? If JFK wasn't assassinated, he would no doubt be the Democratic nominee for president in the 1964 election. There are reports, however, that Kennedy was considering dropping LBJ from the ticket in 1964 because he wanted his brother, Robert F. Kennedy, to become president of the United States instead of LBJ. If Kennedy went ahead with doing so, then J. Edgar Hoover, at the orders of Johnson, may in fact reveal to the public all that he knew about Kennedy's affair with Judith Campbell. This would occur if Kennedy made the decision to drop LBJ from the ticket. If Hoover did so, then the Kennedy family would be destroyed, and their reputation in politics would go away. The entire legacy of the Kennedy family that we see in politics today would be no more, and John F. Kennedy's reputation in history today would be besmirched if Hoover did something like this. Kennedy would be ashamed, and likely his approval rating among Americans would continuously drop. In fact, before Kennedy's assassination, his approval ratings were already declining because of his handling of the Cuban Missile Crisis. And while his handling of the Cuban Missile Crisis was good, the public still didn't like how he approached the Bay of Pigs invasion. And because of this, it is very likely that Kennedy would be forced to resign if such a thing if Hoover had revealed about Kennedy's affairs. Thus, we can see that Lyndon B. Johnson is inevitable, no matter what scenario we're talking about. Even if Kennedy isn't assassinated and drops him from the ticket, we would still see a President LBJ. Thank you for watching this video. Make sure to like this video down below and subscribe to the channel.